All right, a few pertinent things at play. Final Fantasy 16 and its PC performance are wild. Creative Business Unit 3 probably needs a lot of optimization before they can convince a lot of people that this game might be worth playing, or possibly the 4K side is just not as optimized because the 4090 builds are starting to have like some issues depending on what people are experiencing. I've seen some people say it's this way, some people say it's that way. I'm not buying this game till it's like bottom bin price, and because I don't play Final Fantasy, so I guess I'll just have to, watch and see what other people are thinking. Or maybe if I'm feeling nice, I'll probably get it. In order for us to basically comprehend what this video is probably going to be, we have to go ahead and do some technical jargon and get it out of the way. First things first, there are now these PlayStation fanboys who have now somehow become tech experts, and they now all are jumping and running to the Digital Foundry's door. Like, man, this is, the gospel in terms of what we're talking about in terms of hardware. Remember when I was always citing Digital Foundry as to how they actually took the Series X kit and were able to analyze that the consoles themselves are just limited devices. I remember people telling me in the comment section that I was talking nonsense, some of them PlayStation fanboys, telling me that, that it's not really showcasing the full power of the PlayStation 5 or whatever it is, that there's no way you can know, blah, blah, blah. But now somehow their prophets in the console war space are starting to tell them this 40 Ti thing, and even to the point where the misunderstanding got to the point where Richard Levitt of Digital Foundry had to go back and correct, or at least not necessarily correct, but be more precise in his explanation that the GPU that he sees in the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be more like a downclocked 4070. But what is a 4070? That's a question that a lot of people have not necessarily taken into account. An RTX 4070 is a $500 graphics card, one that if you actually wanted to maybe build in the mid-range or even somewhere in the close high range, depending on how you're building, you can look towards it. I don't know if it will probably give you that high range, and I'm not talking 4090 in this conversation at all, because that 4090 and 4080 Ti class and such, guys, we know that those classes are designed for like some different types of PC tasks. But let's go ahead and look at the 4080 price tag. 4080 price tag is actually bragging or asking around $500. Now, if it wasn't for DLSS and frame generation and all of the different, functionality that NVIDIA puts with its cards, I think this card will probably not be as impressive, because in terms of raw rasterization power, the 6800 XT keeps up with this particular card, and you can actually find that for a little bit less right now on the market. They're basically similar cards, and if you even go for the 7800 XT, then you're basically talking, some raw power in terms of the way it's going to generate frames. But here is the thing. These graphics cards, especially seeing a lot of these fanboys run around with this conversation, are going to be limited if you don't have the one ingredient that really can unlock a graphics card, and that is the CPU. If you look very carefully at build videos, and if you look at metrics videos, you'll see that in order for you to be able to get the best out of a graphics card like this, you're looking at a CPU that is somewhere around that desktop 8-core and 16 capability. 816 is basically where you want to be, and not just 816 like you have in a PS5 or you have in the Series X, but desktop level 816 in terms of the core and thread count. And if you look at a lot of these videos that are testing and pretty much maxing out the CPU need so that they can max out the GPU need, you'll see that these games are running, over 120 FPS in terms of their metrics, but the CPUs that are being used are CPUs that are nowhere close to what the Xbox Series X or even the PlayStation 5 can boast or brag about. And the performance is just insane. This is just native performance at this particular, price point. And this is a price point that they're not even selling the PlayStation 5 Pro at. And if they are selling the PlayStation 5 Pro, then they're eating a significant loss. But one thing that you also have to pay attention to is the way, a lot of these folk have basically now supposedly become tech experts when it's, in my opinion, suitable and convincing and convenient for them. It's quite shocking, because just a few, years ago or just a few months ago, a lot of these folk were very adamant that they didn't necessarily care much about what the PC platform had to offer. But now that they've come into the conversation and they're getting grinded in terms of their opinions and in terms of the things that they've basically been touting, I think it's really inconvenient, and it's getting to some of them. And I say rightly so. You see, when you've gone too long with, basically sniffing your own farts and sitting in an echo chamber, it's easy for you to get complacent because, you've pretty much been, supported and heralded with everything that you said. And then you walk into an area where you have no experience and you have, no knowledge of what's going on. And then you realize that you're actually, the back of the classroom in terms of a subject matter. It can get abrasive and it can basically ruin, a person who's really prideful. And what I say is, a lot of these talking heads on the PlayStation side, you can actually benefit from a little bit of humility in this conversation. And I say so with the best intention in heart. At some point, most of us who are actually talking about this stuff, we were noobs as well. We didn't know what the heck was going on. We were kind of getting into the conversations. And then I think what may have happened is PlayStation and Xbox kind of gave you guys some marketing tips that, or some marketing talking points that kind of gave you a little bit too much confidence in the conversation. But then you didn't necessarily take the time to actually go, study what exactly the reality is. And so now, you're basically in a very tough spot and a tough position. You've said things and put things out there on Twitter that people are going to basically use and look at you and say, well, you have no credibility because you did come in here, barging the door in thinking that this was your regular PlayStation podcast that you've been doing for a long time. This is a whole different world. This is a whole different conversation. This is an area where right now you are the underdog in the conversation. And the best thing you can do is basically just sit down and figure out what everyone is already telling you and everyone already knows. Because at the end of the day, this PlayStation 5 Pro is going to come out here, and I'm not going to lie, the egg on the faces that's going to happen is not going to be funny. At the same time, the danger is a lot of people are being misinformed in real time. And this is the thing that's actually painful about it all is, somebody, and I've seen a lot of your comments, by the way. I've seen some comments of people who said, multiple different, commenters on the channel who said, man, if only I had known that my $500 and my $600 could have gotten me a gaming PC that would kind of eliminate a lot of the restrictions that I'm seeing, give me better value for my money, and so on and so forth, I would not have invested in the PlayStation 5, or I would not have invested in a second console, because most gamers in this generation have two consoles. They've looked at both propositions and seen, okay, man, I can leverage this or I can leverage that. And so for many of them, they decided that a second console was a place for them to basically go, which has not necessarily panned out to be the most things. In the case of Xbox, you don't need one. Even Xbox themselves say you don't need one, and you can get a PC and basically play whatever Xbox game you want to play. That's something that they pretty much try their best to, ensure that you can play anywhere. In the case of PlayStation, they act like you need them, but you don't need them. And you can also play their games on PC as well. And for the most part, play them for less money. If we actually go back, and we haven't forgotten the Helldivers 2 situation, can you imagine that? Helldivers 2, when that came out on Steam, many of you remember that it was actually cheaper to play that game. It was less expensive. They sold you their own game for a lower price on PC, not requiring a PlayStation Plus subscription to be able to play it. If that did not motivate you to abandon PlayStation, I don't know what else will. Like literally, and they have like 10 more live service games coming out. They could not even give you the courtesy that they give to Fortnite and other games, which are free-to-play games on their platform, who don't require the PlayStation Plus subscription. And you as a PlayStation player, they could not give you the courtesy to say, you know what, since PC is not paying for PS Plus, why don't we open it up for our own, platform? No, they build you for it. See, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just telling you what the reality is. I've seen this stuff with PlayStation, and I saw it from a long, long time. And to be very honest, my goal is just to point it out. You get to make up your mind. But at the end of the day, this so-called talk about a 4070 is one that is missing a lot of context. A lot of these folk don't know what a 4070 is. They're not aware as to what kind of device or what kind of machine it is and what it does, in a sense. They don't even understand how the GPU in terms of a desktop class versus an APU is going to compete. They're also citing 4070, not even paying attention that a 4070 is an NVIDIA card. Its technology and its upscaling techniques are very different from what AMD has been doing. We've known about this AMD stuff for a long time. We've been in a position where we've waited for AMD's own, different functionality in terms of, upscaling techniques and upscaling technologies and all of this stuff. Remember, we bought the, new GPU classes with AMD promising that they were going to be bringing FSR 3 later down the road. So if that's what they want to bank on, then, well, I'm going to be watchful and just see how, a lot of these reactions go into play once we finally get to see this console working its workings. And then I think at that point, a lot of humble pie will be served. So that's my video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. Peace out.